inside. Couldn't keep it in, heaven knows I tried.
Hey guys, let's recap Once Upon a Time, Season 4, Episode 7, called The Snow Queen. Finally, we get a Snow Queen episode where we get to see her motivation and her story. Thank goodness. So, we find out that she does indeed have two sisters. That was true. And they were really close as children, and they were actually like the best of sisters. They had this ribbon bond as a symbol of their sisterly bond. So, when they were young, they got attacked by this weirdo guy, and Ingrid protected them with her ice powers, and she's like, I don't know what this is, I'm a monster. And then you have her sisters saying, you're not a monster to us, we'll always be there for each other. And this continued as they got older, because her main thing was that she wanted to get rid of her powers because she wanted to be normal. And so they went to Rumpelstiltskin in Mist Haven, and they asked for his help, and of course he was like, oh, of course I'll give you help, but at a price. So he gets their sisterly ribbons, which is definitely symbolic in the downfall of their sisterhood, because they were a symbol, and the sisters were like, no, we can't give up our ribbons, I mean, we're here for each other. Which, I mean, it's a symbol, so it shouldn't really mean anything. That you can give up your ribbons, we'll still be sisters, but it was the symbol that really took them down. So Rumpelstiltskin gives them the gloves that we know from Elsa, the blue gloves that are supposed to control her magic, and the urn. So Ingrid had those things. And then this jerk of Wesselton, or Weaselton, this weirdo with the mustache, this may be the father of the guy we saw in Frozen. So he's all into Helga, but once he knows that there's an older sister who is supposed to be queen, because he was probably all over Helga because they didn't tell anybody about Ingrid and she was the oldest, so he assumed she was going to be queen. But now Ingrid's going to be queen because she's the actual older sister. So he's all up in her, he tries to kiss her, and when she ices him, he's like, she's a monster! And then he tries to lie and say, Helga, she tried to kiss me, she's a monster. But of course Helga believes her sister, and she turns on him. And then he says, I'm going to tell everybody that you're a terrible person, and they're going to lock you up because you're a monster. And Ingrid tries to protect herself by icing him, and that's when Helga steps in, and she gets iced instead. So Ingrid accidentally froze her sister's heart. She crumbles down, and you can see the look on her face. Elizabeth Mitchell does a great job. She's like, oh no, what have I done? So we understand the horrible, tragic thing that made the Snow Queen the way she is today. And then we see Gerda come up, and she's like, oh my god, you killed our sister, you froze her heart, she's gone, it's all your fault. And then, because their sisterly bond is broken, she says, you are a monster. And it is Gerda who traps Ingrid in the urn. And this is kind of reflective of the Snow Queen telling Elsa that her sister trapped her in the urn, because that's exactly what happened to her. So back in Storybrooke, the Snow Queen gets captured by Emma. Elsa has this magic candle, so Belle found this book, and it told Elsa what to do with the candle, and so she translated it, and if you blow on it and you use your magic, it can capture snow powers. And Emma used it, and it totally worked. So Snow Queen's captured, and she goes to interrogate her. At first, Elsa goes in, but Elsa's far too emotional about her sister, so she has to step out. And we realize that this is actually what the Snow Queen wanted. She wanted to be alone with Emma, to get her all riled up, and to implant in her the doubt in her family, and basically the desire to be alone with the Snow Queen and Elsa, because they're all with powers and they all are special like that. So she, eggs her on. It's a real big power play. So she eggs her on by saying, hasn't there ever been a moment where you felt your family thought that you were different and treated you differently and were scared of you and your powers, and is just glad that their other baby's normal? And this really gets to Emma, because she's actually have been feeling that a little bit since Neil has been born. It's more than a sibling rivalry, because Emma didn't get a childhood, and they're giving Neil everything. For example, the baby class, which was absolutely fantastic, by the way, Mary Margaret and Aurora and Cinderella are all in this, Mommy and Me class, and it's really cute. So Cinderella has Alexandra, Aurora has her baby, who's named Prince Philip, and after his father, obviously, and Mary Margaret has Neil, and so they're all singing, and it's really cute. And then when Emma comes to pick her up, she's all riled up because she gets a little jealous, I guess, and then she makes the baby bottle milk kind of boil, because her magic is still, in tune, and then Mary Margaret actually, holds her baby a little bit closer, and she's really scared for at least 2 seconds of her daughter. She's scared. She doesn't want to give her baby to Emma. And Emma notices this, and it comes back when Emma blows a hole in the wall because the Snow Queen just eggs her on one too many times, and the Snow Queen is able to escape. But she's done her job. She's implanted that doubt and that fear in Emma. And when she goes outside, she's like, I don't want to touch anybody, I don't want to hurt anybody. And then she accidentally makes a gigantic light post fall on top of David, which again gets Mary Margaret going, Emma! Oh my gosh! You could have hurt him! And so, that protective mother-wife thing is coming out, but it's terrible because it's against Emma. And Emma gets scared, she runs away, and she's, in her car, just reeling over everything that's happened. So the other huge thing that happened in this episode, oh my gosh, it was great, Outlaw Queen. So Regina told Robin that he had to forget about her and fall back in love with Marion, and his response is, I can't do that, I don't know what to do. I mean, my head was in the forest, but my heart led me to you. It was so great. So then he ends up talking to Will Scarlet in Granny's diner. It should have taken place in a bar, but he was throwing darts, and he was missing, which is really crazy because it's Robin Hood. Like, he's the master archer. He can't be missing in darts, but this is where his head's at. So we learn the backstory of how Robin and Marion met, and it was kind of Marion that got him in the mindset of steal from the rich and give to the poor rather than just stealing from everybody. And so, that is the code that he's lived by, and she kind of made him the man he is today. So he was kind of reminiscing about Marion. But then Will Scarlet starts to say that, I chose my path, I did what I could for love, and look where it's gotten me. And if you want to ruin your life for love, it's always worth it. And so Will was actually kind of talking about Marion because that's what Marion said to him when he asked her why she's with Robin Hood. But Robin Hood was thinking about Regina because he goes back at the very end in her vault. She's wearing a really cute red dress, and he comes up and he says, I've lived by a code my entire life. Steal from the rich, give to the poor, be truthful and righteous and good, and I've tried to live by that all the day of my life, but this is not one of those days. And he kisses her like there is no tomorrow. It's so beautiful. And Outlaw Queen lives, and every fan just totally screamed, and they obviously had some fun in that vault, and it's really great that Robin is choosing love at this point. There is some backlash because some people are like, well, it's the mother of his son, and he's not thinking of it as loving somebody or loving the other person. It's letting someone die, basically. But the important thing to remember here is that he can't just switch off his feelings for Regina like that. It doesn't work like that. He can't just forget about Regina because he's in love with her, completely. And so this is the struggle that he's been dealing with, and it's real. The last thing is Henry in Operation Mongoose. He's, wearing a tie around his grandpa's shop. However, he's not really learning anything magical. He's really not getting anywhere. But at the very end, the Snow Queen walks into Gold's shop, and they make a deal because she has the final piece of the puzzle, because she has the hat, as we know in the flashbacks. And so she tells him the secret thing that he needs in order to get what he wants. And he'll leave her alone and let Storybrooke belong to the Snow Queen, and he can have the rest of the world and be free with Belle and do whatever the heck he wants. But he still wants the Dark One's powers. So it seems like this deal has made this bad thing for both villains, even though Mr. Gold's not really a villain, but he is still kinda. Hook's very suspicious of Gold, but we'll see what happens with that.